Good morning, children. Today we are moving to a new chapter in physics, that is to the chapter 14, Electric Current and its Effects. In grade 6 itself, we learnt the basics of electricity. We saw that electricity is the flow of current enabling the devices to work. When you switch a fan, the current is passed through the wires and it enables the fan to rotate. So I can describe electricity in two different ways. I can tell it as flow of current or flow of electrons. Because this current is nothing but the flow of charges. You know that there are two charges, positive charges and negative charges. Positive charges are called proton and negative charges are called electron. When the charges flow from one end to another, they cause the current flow. Okay, so if this is a wire, okay, one end of the wire is A and the other end of the wire is B. When I connect it in a circuit, the current passes through the wire. But how come? Okay, the current passage is nothing but the flow of charges in the wire from one end to the other end. There are two charges, as I told you already. The positive charges will get attracted to the negative charge. Right? So, from one end to the other end, I can tell us the positive charges are moving towards the other end and they get attracted to the negative charges, and this causes the charges to flow from one end to another. When these charges flow, this produces the passage of current in the wire. I can otherwise describe it as the flow of electrons. Okay, electrons means negative charges. They all get attracted to the positive charge. So if the electrons flow from one end to the other end, that is from the negative end to the positive end, and they flow and they get attracted to the protons and they constitute the supply of current. Okay, so I can tell the flow of current as flow of charges, either as protons or electrons. They flow from one end to the other end. Proton means positive to negative end. Electron means negative to positive end. So that is why I have drawn here that the flow of current is always opposite to the direction of electrons. Okay, the current flows from the positive end to the negative end, but the electrons flow from negative end to positive end. So what is a cell? You learnt in your 6th standard itself, right? A cell is nothing but a container having some chemicals enabling the flow of charges from one end to the other end. A cell will have two ends, positive end and the negative end. When the charges move from the positive to the negative end, the current flows through this cell and it helps wherever we apply the cell to operate any device, it enables us to allow the current flow. Okay, a cell means it will always have one positive terminal and one negative terminal. Look at this. Okay, I have displayed three different cells. Cell is nothing but it can be a duro cell or everyday cell. Okay, I have displayed three different cells. I had to connect these three different cells in a remote so that it gets on. It gets operated. And how do I connect it? How do I insert these three cells all together in a remote? First cell, I would connect it to a spring connected of the remote, right? So positive end of the cell gets connected to the spring of the remote, and the other end of the cell is the negative end. Now I have to put the next cell, but how, in which way? With the positive end connected to the negative end, or the negative end touching? How do I insert a cell? First cell, then the second one, and then the third one I insert it in a remote. I will have the springs connected at the both the ends, right? But in between connections of the cells, how it is placed? Do I connect the positive and positive? Or do I connect the negative and negative? No. If I place the positive end on the positive end of the two cells, then there would be an interruption in the current flow. Because we learned that the current always flows from the positive to the negative end. The flow of charges will give you the current supply. So I would connect the negative end of the first cell to the positive end of the next cell. Similar case with the third cell also. Negative to positive. So that they get attached, they get attracted, and it enables the current flow. So on the last end again I'll have the spring of the remote, so that when it is on, the current will flow through the remote and it gets operated. Clear? So in this chapter, we are going to learn how to draw an electric circuit, okay? Diagrammatic representation of the circuit. You would have a circuit means cell or battery, wires, then the bulb, switch. Yes, so how do I represent them diagrammatically? Before knowing that, I should know how I represent each component of the circuit diagrammatically. So, the components of the circuit are cell, battery, wire, bulb, switch. Okay, so how do I draw them? A cell means, what did we learn? A cell will always have one positive terminal and one negative terminal. So, I always indicate the positive terminal in a straight long line and the negative terminal in a small long line. This is how. A long line will represent the positive and the small line will represent the negative end. But what is this horizontal line drawn to this? It is nothing but the wires. A cell I will always connect it to a wire in a circuit. So the wires is not, this is the straight line, the horizontal line is the wire connected to a cell. So the longer line represents the positive end. The shorter line represents the negative end. Clear? Do not draw both the lines of equal length. If it is drawn like this, how will I identify whether which is the positive end and which is the negative end? Show some differences. Okay? Next, what is a battery? A battery is a group of cells. Okay? A battery is a group of cells. A cell will have one positive terminal and one negative end. Whereas a battery is a group of cells. So I have drawn 3 or 2 or more cells together will give me a battery, right? So I have drawn 3 cells here to give a battery. It is not necessary only 3 should be drawn. You can draw even 5 or 7 also. The meaning is, whenever 2 or more cells are connected, it is a battery. It acts as a battery. One long line, one short line. This is one cell. And the next is another cell and another cell. So 3 cells are joined here. So this will act as a battery. And as I told you already, wire is nothing but a straight horizontal line. And the next thing is bulb. This is how I represent a bulb diagrammatically. How do I draw it is, a straight line is nothing but your wire connected to the bulb. You will have a filament inside a bulb, right? So that filament you would draw and then you would circle like this. This is how you draw a bulb. And next is switch. So there are two ways to represent the switch. If the switch is in on position and if the switch is in off position. Okay. So a switch is in on position means the current will flow through the circuit. If the switch is in off position, the current will not flow through the circuit. So that the same way I represented it diagrammatically. So this is the connecting wires. These two dots represent the ends of the switch. And if can you see here this opening? That is nothing but the switch. If it is closed means the switch is on and there is a connection. Okay, the current will flow continuously. If it is open, this the top flop like structure, no, that line if it is open means there is no connection to the next wire of connected to the switch. There is an interruption in your circuit. So the switch is in off position. Only if it is all together connected means current will flow. So I can tell that the switch is on. If it is open, the current gets breakdown here. It does not pass through the next remaining parts from this end. So the switch is off. Okay, children? So practice this circuit symbols once today. That is going to be a homework. You can refer this table in your textbook, chapter 14. But see that you are drawing the symbols correctly. Do not draw the picture of these components. There are 3 columns in the table given in the book. First the names of the component, then the picture and then the symbol. I want you to write the name and practice the symbol column alone. Okay. For the battery, you can follow this symbol. If you have any doubt, call me, my dear children. Thank you. See you in the next class.